Hey guys, Mr. T here. This is a video on the language of algebra. So there's several terms that you need to be aware of and understand to be able to do algebra properly. So the first one is the term numeral, and that is a symbol used to represent a known number. So these are the numbers you're familiar with already. So numbers that you've learned about in primary school before are numerals. That's the proper name for them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. are examples of numerals. That's pretty simple. The next step, variable or pronumeral is another term. These are interchangeable. A variable or a pronumeral is a letter or a symbol used to represent an unknown number. So a numeral, a number, is a known number. A variable or a pronumeral is a symbol representing something that's unknown. And this is what should be new to you. So for example, the most used one that you're going to experience is X. It can be any symbol, so Y or capital A, whatever. Any sort of letter or symbol that's used to represent something that we don't know just yet. Alright, next is terms. So a term is a grouping of numerals and variables which are separated by plus or minus signs. So in mathematics problems that you've seen before, anything that you've seen that's separated by plus or minus signs, even though you haven't dealt with variables or pronumerals just yet, anything that's separated by a plus or a minus sign is known as a term. So for example, in 2x plus 3, it has two terms, because there's two things that are separated by a plus or a minus sign. 2x and 3 are separated by a plus sign there, so there's two terms. The next term that you need to understand is constants. They're terms which have no pronumeral, so no symbol representing an unknown, no variable. It's basically, a constant is a term that's just a number by itself. So in that same, these are called expressions, you'll learn about that soon. In this 2x plus 3, this term here, plus 3, is the constant. So 3 is the constant. Why? Because it's the term that doesn't have a variable in it. There can be more than one constant term, okay? So keep that in mind. The next thing to understand is coefficients. So the number factor, which includes the sign of a term that has a pronumeral or a variable in it, e.g., so for example, in this expression here, 3 take 2x, the second term, this one here, has a pronumeral in it. It's got x there. So the number part, including the sign of a term that has the pronumeral in it, which is the second one here, is the coefficient. The number part, including the sign, is, in this case, it's negative 2, because that's the number in front of the pronumeral x. So the coefficient of x is negative 2 in this case. The next thing to understand is expression. I quickly mentioned that before. An expression is just a collection of terms that have no equal sign as part of them. So here you have 3x plus 2y take 5. You'll notice there's no equal sign, so that is an expression. And that's why I referred to 3 take 2x as an expression. There's no equal sign. Then an equation is a collection of terms much like an expression, but it has an equal sign instead. So here, 3x plus 2y take 5. As soon as we say it's equal to 10, that's an equation. Why? Because it's got an equal sign. So let's practice some of that knowledge here with an example. Considering this here, 4y squared take 6x plus 2xy take 5 plus x squared. Is this an equation or an expression? Well, no equal sign, so therefore it is an expression. B, how many terms are there? Terms are any grouping of numerals and pronumerals separated by plus or minus signs. So how many plus or minus signs do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4 plus or minus signs. So those 4 plus or minus signs are between 5 things. They're separating 5 things. There's 5 terms here, because there's 5 things that have been separated by plus or minus signs, so there are 5 terms. C, state the coefficient of x. So if we look through the terms, here we've got a pronomial that's y squared. Here we've got the pronomial x. Here we've got a pronomial xy. Here there's no pronomial. Here is x squared. So the only one that fits the criteria of x is this one here, this term here. And the number in front of x is -6. So -6 is the coefficient of x. D, state the coefficient of x squared. So now it's not asking about x, it's asking about x squared. This is y squared, this is x, this is xy, this is no variable, this one is x squared, but you'll notice there's nothing in front of it. So you're probably going to say the coefficient is 0, but it's not, because if I times something by 0, anything times by 0 is going to make it 0. So if the coefficient of this was 0, it would end up being 0. It wouldn't exist. The only thing you can times something by to get the exact same thing, the only number I can times x squared by to get x squared again is 1, because 1 times by 1 is 1, 1 times by 2 is 2, 1 times by 3 is 3. Anything you times by 1 is going to end up being the original thing. So actually the coefficient of x squared is 1. We just don't write it. And lastly, E, state the constant term. So if we look at this expression here, this involves a variable, so that's not the constant. This has a variable, so that's not the constant term. This has variables, not constant. This one is a variable, so not a constant term. This is the only term that's just a number, so it is -5. So the constant term is -5, because it includes the sign in front of it. So hopefully that helps you out with some of the language and understanding some of the terms that you need to use in algebra, and I'll see you on the next video.